Let's continue going with functions and graphs. Let's say that you're told to graph the function y equals x plus 1. Just to review our terms, y is our dependent variable. It's dependent because its value is determined by whatever my x is. X is considered my independent variable. All right, when you're told to graph the function, there are two steps. The first step is to make a table of values and then to graph the data. All right, so you need to do these two things in order to satisfy these directions. So the first thing we're going to do is make a table of values. Now, when I have a table, I'm going to have my x column. Remember, x comes first. X is my independent variable. It's my input. And then over here, I'm going to have my y value, or my independent variable, my output. And for the sake of keeping it all straight, I'm going to write my function up here. In this case, y equals the absolute value of x plus 1. Okay, we're going to look at developing this table. And remember that for most standard graphs, you're going to want some negative numbers, some positive numbers, and you always want to graph 0. Okay, so 5 lines is usually what you want to start with a chart. I've got 5 lines here because I'm going to do an x value. Let's do, I don't know, I like 2s. Let's do -4, -2, and 0, and 2, and 4. And we're going to put these in order, smallest to biggest. You can do them bigger to smaller if you prefer, but they need to be in order, and I need a couple negatives, a couple positives, and 0. All right, with that, let's plug those in. And my function is the absolute value of x plus 1. I'm going to put the absolute value of -4 plus 1. And the absolute value of -4 plus 1 is, well, 4 plus 1, which is 5. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is the absolute value of -2 plus 1, which equals 2 plus 1, which is 3. And the next thing I'm going to do is my absolute value of 0 plus 1, which equals 0 plus 1, which is 1. And the absolute value of 2 plus 1 is 2 plus 1, which is 3. And the absolute value of 4 plus 1 is 4 plus 1, which is 5. Oh, this is interesting. Is this a function still? Let's see. I have an x of a -4. My -4 goes to 5. Does my -4 go to any other number? No. My -2 goes to 3. Does it go to any other y value? No. My y values are repeated, but not my x's. So yes, this is a function, just to review. All right, when I do a table, I also really want to get in the habit of writing my coordinates. Okay, so remember my coordinates are my x value first, followed by my y value. And you can even like extend this, so this is like another part of your column. Okay, and then I'm going to have x here is -2, 3, and 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Why this order? Well, because whenever I graph my ordered pairs, it's x, y. X comes before y. All right, now we're done. Our table's done. Our math looks good. Now I'm going to move over into step 2, actually graphing this stuff. All right, so you want to get out your graph paper. Make sure you've got graph paper in front of you. When you graph, you always want to make sure you label your axes. All right, so I'm going to draw my x-axis. X is always horizontal. Then I'm going to come and I'm going to draw my y-axis. Y is always vertical. Y is the one with the tail on it. Okay, and let's look at finding our values. Let's make each one of these a 1. My range isn't that big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's label 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And over here is the negative side. I didn't center this one very well. Okay, And we're going to label our y-axes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, -5. All right, let's look at graphing this stuff. Remember, you always start with your x. Looking at this point, I've got -4, 5. Start at your origin and go, good, to the left 4, and up 5. You should end right here. All right, the next one is -2, 3. You're starting at your origin. Pause. Am I going right or left? Left. How much? 2. Good job. -2. All right, now I have to go up to 3. 1, 2, 3. And my next one is 0. Oh, cool. X doesn't move. It's 0. Up to the 1 on the y. The next one is 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I get 4 over to +4, up to +5. Oh, this graph's interesting. Now I'm going to connect it using a line. All right, notice that even when I had negative x's and 0, my y doesn't go anywhere below. My y is positive. Notice why that is. It's the absolute value of x plus 1. So if I have the absolute value of x, it's always positive. And if I'm adding 1, it's never going to go below this area right here. Where x equals 0, this is where it intersects the y axis. So an absolute value graph is always going to end up in this V shape. Always. It could be out here. It might be small and tiny. But absolute value of x plus or minus any number is always going to be a shape like this. Now a negative absolute value, interestingly enough, is always going to have a shape like this on my axis. And we'll get into some graphs like that soon. All right, let's do another one. This time you're given the direction to graph this function, the function of f of x equals x squared plus 1. So the first thing I'm going to do again is what? Make a table. Good. So I'm going to draw my table. I'm going to make it nice and big because I want a column for my x. I want a column for my function, f of x equals x squared plus 1. I want a column for my y. And then I want my ordered pairs. All right, so you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And we always want at least 5 lines, 5 points. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and again, let's go with, let's do like 2, 1, 0, and 1. How does that sound? We'll keep it nice and small. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. We have 0, we've got a couple of negatives, we've got a couple positives, we're good to go. Make sure there's 0, a couple negatives, and a couple positives. All right, let's plug -2 in for my x, and I'm going to get -2 squared plus 1, which equals 4 plus 1, which equals 5. -2 times -2 is positive 4. I hope you're with me on this. Then I'm going to plot this. My x was -2. My y was 5. Let's go back and do -1. I'm plugging it into x squared plus 1. -1 squared. Well, what's -1 times -1? It is 1 plus 1 is 2. X value is -1, y is 2. Now I'm going to plug 0 in. 0 squared plus 1 is 1, because 0 squared is 0. Okay, x is 0, y is 1. Now I have 1 squared plus 1 is 1 plus 1, or 2. Sorry, 1, comma 2. And let's do it for the last one. It's 2 squared. 2 squared is 4 plus 1, which is 5. My points are 2, comma 5. All right, now let's look at graphing that. So the next step is to graph the ordered pairs that I have. I'm going to draw my x-axis. I'm going to draw my y-axis. I'm going to label them. Make sure you label your graph, x and y. And we're going to look at plot. Well, before we plot points, I need to assign my labels on my graph. So let's just go by ones again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Over here I've got -5 and -10. And I'm going to do the same on my y. I've got +5, +10, -5, and -10. All right, my axes are labeled. Now I'm ready to plot my points. So I'm going to start by my first point here is -2, 5. Always start on your x from your origin. First point's -2. Go over to the left 2. Up 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where 2 and 5 intersect. The next is going to be -1 and 2. -1 is here on my x. Go up to +2, and it's right here. At 0, my y value is 1. That's right here. At 1, my y value is 2 again. And at 2, my y value is up here at 5. This one's an interesting one. Notice I can't draw a straight line through any of these. This is a curved graph. The reason that it's curved is because I have x squared. If I have 2 squared, that equals 4. 3 squared is 9, and 4 squared is 16. It goes up exponentially. It ends up moving my y values up very fast. X at 0 was just 1. I'm sorry, y when x was 0 was 1. Y when x was 1 was 2. It doubled. That's fine. That's linear. But then, when x was 2, it was all the way up here at 5. This is a mark of a squared in my formula. This kind of equation you'll learn later is called a quadratic equation, when my graph looks like a bowl, smiley face, or a frowny face. All right, I'm going to give you a couple to graph and chart on your own. Make sure you make a table and graph the ordered pairs. You're going to do it just like we did in our examples. You can rewind the videos to watch them if you need. And these are the 2 functions that you're going to be making a table of values for and graphing. Make sure you do both steps, please. I will check your work tomorrow. Make sure you have graphing paper. Enjoy your graphing time. Thank you for sticking with me.